when we were planning for return to school, and we also have been talking about it since the return to school, just checking in, making sure that we're getting a good pulse on how everyone is feeling, and just the stress and anxiety levels in school. So I want to thank our panel who is here, Ann Dudley, who is a very valuable part of our return to school team, a parent and also a pediatrician in the area. Thanks, Ann. We also have Athena Wood, Allison Gleiss, and Kathleen Smart, who are our counseling and social work team from elementary, middle, and high school. So Larry Huskins is also on, and I'll be kind of moderating throughout the town hall. So if you have a question or a topic you want us to cover, I have turned off the question form, or I probably won't be looking at the question form throughout the course of the meeting. So if you have a question or topic, just put it into the chat, or you can text me separately, and I'll put my number into the chat in case you don't want to put your question in the chat. So I think we're going to start off. Ann is going to give us just kind of a little introduction to the topic.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be here. I did prepare a couple words just so that I wouldn't get confused or flustered or forget anything. So thank you so much for letting me be here. I wanted to really address this topic that is really close to my heart, especially recently, something that we're seeing a lot in our pediatric clinic. Throughout my time as an outpatient pediatrician at Spectrum Health Lakeland, I've seen a lot of kids and patients suffering from trauma, from stress, from family stress, health inequities, mental health illness, depression, anxiety, those kinds of things. Many kids who are suicidal, etc. But recently it's really been exacerbated, and to an alarming level. I would say I kind of quickly polled some of my partners, and roughly a third up to a half, we would say, of our patients are suffering mental health illness that is either new or worsened since the pandemic has started. And it's really across all kinds of kids. There's not necessarily a group that we're seeing that's worsened, except for in our kids that already had some stressors going on, or had some health inequities that were already happening. But really, any kid can present with these concerns. And we know that all of us are having some big feelings, especially our little kids and our smaller children, but then also our teenagers, and especially like seniors who are going off to college, are feeling hopeless maybe, or lonely, loss. They're feeling trauma. They're feeling, really concerned about the future. And so we know that, but also we're all feeling those same feelings ourselves as parents and as adults and caretakers of these children. So something that we really all need to address, as I know that you are aware. So I really wanted to speak with you tonight, especially about how these concerns are affecting our kids. And we know that there are new concerns that have been coming up. But I think that the thing that's been kind of stressful for me the most is that a lot of times in the office, parents, they may be aware, but they definitely don't know the depth of how deeply some of their children are hurting. And I've seen a lot of kids who have concerns, and they seem a little off. And so I'm asking them some screening type questions. And as I'm asking them those questions, the kid might be answering one way, and they're admitting, yes, I definitely have those symptoms. And the parent is shaking their head no, or saying, or surprised and looking at the child. They had no idea that that's how the kid was feeling. It was like I brought it up for the first time. So that's been a little bit more worrisome recently, as it seems to be sort of a common trend. As pediatricians in groups and forums that I follow, we've been addressing the mental health illness concern throughout the pandemic. We knew that this was going to be the biggest impact that it would have on children, as COVID is not necessarily negatively affecting our children in the large numbers of deaths and prolonged illness that we're seeing in older adults especially. But we knew that this impact would be strong, and it definitely has been, especially the last several months. There are many things that we can do to help our children, and I think that the first thing that we need to do is address that there could be a problem, even in our children who may not appear to be. It's really important that we take the temperature, if you will, of our children's mood and ask them frequently how they're feeling. because unfortunately, in my experience, many of our children are not okay. They're very sick. And it's something that really needs to happen and be addressed quickly. It's not going to get better necessarily anytime soon. We know that this is going to be a prolonged thing, the pandemic, but also the impacts of how this is affecting our children at all stages. They're predicting is going to be lifelong. You know, we know that many of these stressors are a big deal, and it could affect even how some of our younger children are developing socially, academically, mentally, physically. I think that we are especially blessed to have insight on these matters due to our faith. And I truly believe that our faith and our school community can demonstrate in a very keen way the wellness, the self-care, and the resiliency that our children need. It's really important that as parents, we put on our own oxygen mask first, as it were. And I really think that we need to look at our children and determine how then, after we help ourselves, we can help them. Sometimes it means that we have to have uncomfortable conversations, and that we need to face the fears and worries of our children head on. It can be scary to say some of the words and to address some of the issues that we have, and to discover how deep and true these fears are for our children, and how the stress is affecting them. But I wanted to come today and to remind all of us here that there's healthcare providers, school counselors, social workers, teachers, administrators, priests, and other support staff that are available to help. And so I wanted to first just bring this topic up because I know that it is so important. It's something that I'm seeing every day in my office to extreme degrees. So that's why we're here tonight. And so I'm happy to be here to answer any questions that anyone has. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them in the future and you want to email or call me or address them here at the clinic.
Thanks, Anne. So just maybe a quick overview of the agenda. We had Anne kick off, as I mentioned, and I do have one question that I got over text, Anne, so I'll ask you just as follow-up to your intro. And then we have Kathleen and Athena and Allison who are going to kind of walk through some of the things that we're already doing in schools to try to help and support students. Some ideas they have about things they want to implement, and then specifically, if we have to go to remote learning again, what are some of their ideas for ways to support through the remote learning as well. And then we also have some questions that were submitted in advance that we'll get to at the end. But because I think it's a good follow-up to your intro, and because you mentioned screening questions that you ask, the question is, can you share the types of screening questions that you ask kids so we can be better in tune?
Yeah, so something that I do, so for my younger kids, I would say, early elementary school, small children, I usually ask them just kind of how are you feeling? Can you explain how you're feeling? Can you use it? What words would you give me to say how you're feeling? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? I'll even sometimes point to the smiley faces. But then I also obviously look to their parents and I ask them if there's any big changes in their mood. Are they having more tantrums, trouble sleeping, trouble going to the bathroom, not wanting to eat, not wanting to see friends, that kind of thing. Struggling in school is kind of across the board a concern that we ask. But then for older kids, I always talk to them with the parent, but then I also always, if I can, ask the parent to step out if the kid wants them to, so that the kid can have some privacy and that they can talk to me just one-on-one. Sometimes that's a time that the kid will be more willing to share what's really on their heart. And I find that that's probably my most fruitful time because they, especially children who are high achieving and come from good families who have high expectations of them and whose children are generally high achieving, they don't want to disappoint their parents. And so some of those screening questions are really better asked alone because the kid won't say anything in front of the parent. They'll say, I'm fine. And so some of those questions are just, how are you feeling? How is your mood? And if they don't know, I offer them responses, possible feelings or emotions that they could say. And then I also always say, how is your mood averaged over the last 2 weeks? 0 to 10, 10 being the best, like you were at Disney and it was your birthday, 0 like you feel terrible and you wish you were dead. average, goods and bad, high and low. What is your average mood? And they give me a number, and then I'll either say great or not great. And then I also say, are you ever feeling hopeless, helpless? You wish you were dead. No one loves you. You wish you weren't here. Everyone else would be better off if you were gone. Now, these are obviously the severe questions for kids that I'm worried who are depressed. And then once I kind of get those feelings, then I gauge, are they safe? Do they have someone who's supporting them? What's the plan? And what needs do we need to address from there? Those screening questions that parents can ask, I think very easily, like I said, like take the temperature of your kid. If something feels off, try to address it with them. But also sometimes kids don't want to say it or they don't have the words. And so, like I said, giving them words, like saying, are you frustrated? Are you mad? You seem mad. Are you mad at me? Because a lot of times depression comes out as anger. Are you mad about something? Did something make you mad? I see that you're not eating. Are you not hungry? Do you feel sick? Is something wrong? Sometimes teenagers and young kids don't have the words. And so giving them words is helpful. But then also, I have found that, especially with my teenage patients, that they might not be able to say it to their parents, but they can text it to them or they can email it to them, because even saying the words is like painful, like it hurts for them to say it. So I think that that's something that I have used a lot and that parents can use. But I would say just in general, taking the temperature of your kid, just having a one-on-one connection, looking at them, putting your phone down, putting the tablet away, having dinner with them, just saying how you feel. Man, this sucks. This is really hard. I'm sad. I'm frustrated. I'm worried. How do you feel? And I think that's helpful for a lot of our kids.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Okay, I don't have any immediate questions that I've gotten right now, so I think we'll hand it over to Kathleen. I think you're up first. Just to give kind of an overview of the programming at the elementary school, some of the things we've already been doing, some of the things we might do in the future, and then specifically if we go virtual, how do you think we can best support our elementary students?
Yeah. Hi there, everybody. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about what we do this year and what we've been doing in the past and we'll do each year, and then what we do extra this year. So every day, all of our preschool through 5th grade teachers do a check-in with the kids. They do it in various ways. The older ones are definitely do it on their Chromebooks. And then I think the younger ones do it with paper, smiley faces and things like that. But they definitely do a check-in with them every day, maybe even twice a day, depending on what's going on. And then they also, some of them are even asking, do you need to speak to the teacher or Mrs. Smart? Or, do you need someone to check in with you face-to-face kind of thing? And I think we're lucky at the elementary school because we do have the kids are with one teacher all day, so that teacher can be looking out for them and with them all day, so can notice a difference throughout the day even through the week. We also do, I meet with each classroom, kindergarten through 5th grade, twice a month to do social emotional learning. I have different topics per grade, and I've done basically the same thing with each grade throughout the years, but some changes depending on what's happening. So we do with kindergarten, a lot of feelings and emotions type things and everything surrounding that. And 1st grade, we do making friends and getting along kind of things. And 2nd grade, a little bit more of getting along and how to solve those problems that you have with others. We focus on empathy and gratitude with 3rd grade, and 4th grade is a lot about friendships and inclusion. And that's when I also start talking to them about kind of an introduction to stress and stress management and what does it even mean and how does it look physically for us or feel physically. And respect, we focus on that a little bit too, of course. And then in 5th grade, we get more into stress management type things and different perspectives for people. Obviously, we're all different. And we talk about worry versus anxiety and how is that different, and building resilience as 5th graders. And there were a lot of examples this year, obviously, about that. So we always kind of touch on that. But all grades this year, I'm trying to focus again on our worries. That's a general topic almost every time, and how to manage those worries, and recognizing our emotions, because so many of us, adults and kids, don't always really know what we're feeling, or obviously why we're even feeling it. So we do a lot of talking about that. And let's see. And then coping strategies. I'm focusing on that with every grade this year, because we need to do a lot of that. We need to find all the strategies we can, and come up with some different ones, because we've got a lot going on, from little ones to big ones. And so the more we have in our pocket, the better we can do. And I also touched on, I do this every year, but this year for many reasons, I guess, including others, it's always an issue. But this year I feel like, we're staying in our classes, our classrooms, not even just within the grade. So we are only with those 15 or so kids all day, lunch and recess and everything. And so I think making sure that everybody feels a part of it in some way. We're making sure that, if somebody's feeling left out or having a hard time, that we notice that. And that kind of comes from checking on that empathy and everything. But that's been something I like to focus on, because that's been a struggle, I think, for some kids, not being able to see their friends, not being, the friends in the other class, the other 5th grade class or the other 4th grade class, or between the grades. And then we start out, every time I go in there, we start out with a 5-minute relaxation mindfulness with 2nd through 5th grade. I haven't done it with kindergarten and 1st grade so much, but I know that 1st grade teachers are doing that. But we do just a 5-minute kind of relaxation, clear the mind, talk about why we're even doing that, and move on with the topic of the day. So that's something I do every year, but I've added on to it. And then I'm meeting with individual students anywhere from 1 to 4 times per month, depending on what their needs are. And obviously can do that with more. If somebody has some concerns, they just need to let the teacher know, or let me know. They can send me an email or something. If you have some concerns about your child that you'd like me to spend some time with them face to face, just kind of checking out how they're feeling and why they're feeling whatever it is. Let's see. So we also, with Athena and Allison, have put together a link on the website and with Pam Barden's help, social emotional resources and other services that are available in our area. And so if you go on to our website homepage, you either click on information and resources, or you can click on LMC RTS Fall 2020 FAQs. And then it's within there under the FAQ page under documents. So there's a couple ways to get at it. We added that in just today, but we've been putting it together for a little bit. So another thing that this year that I'm trying to do, and I know Larry's been doing it also for sure, is providing a little more support for our staff. It's been a stressful year, like it is for everybody everywhere. Just trying to be there to support them in whatever's needed, because just like kids are stressed and all parents are stressed, obviously, the staff are. I think the teachers are taking on a lot more and trying new things. So I'm trying to make sure we're there for that and support them. Things that I'm planning to do, or we're planning to do, I'm looking at trying to do some small group meetings within each classroom. Some like games and activities type things, lighthearted, fun things, so that because socialization is a struggle for some of the kids, because it's been a hard year. So I'm trying to look for some fun things to do, but within the class, and then reaching out to let's say if it's the 5th grade class, Mrs. Cullen's class, then reaching out to Mrs. Goshgarian's class and combining them virtually in some way. I don't know how I'm going to do that exactly yet, but I'd like to, because they don't get to see each other. I mean, they see each other, but they don't get to interact like they used to, like they normally do. So I'm going to try to to do that in some way throughout the year. And then also I wanted to add on some things. We do this typically every year. We like to do some encouragement and recognition of acts of kindness within the school. Usually it's more of a hands-on, close kind of thing. I'm looking at some ways that we can do that and recognize it, but also all feel a part of it. So that's coming probably sometime this month. Hope definitely before Christmas. So anything coming up for if we go into e-learning, we'll do all the same things. Basically, we did that in the spring. I met with all the students that I do individually. I continue to do that, and I'll do that if we have to do that, go to e-learning. But so do Google Classrooms and Google Meets with the classrooms that I meet with, and then individually. And then hopefully, again, some virtual group meetings, which we definitely did that last spring. I did it with 5th grade girls all through last year, once a month, and then even when we were at home. And one thing I didn't do in the spring that I think might be helpful, we'll see, is having just some open office hours for kids and parents to know that I'm available at, whatever the set time is each week or part of a day, whatever it is, so that you'll know, oh, I can get in touch with you, meet with you, just talk about whatever's on your mind or whatever's come up. That's what I'm hoping to do. But hopefully, maybe we won't have to even be at home. So that's the goal, right, for everybody. So that's
right. We've been very careful to say if, not when.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathleen,
Mm-hmm.
for that overview. Allison, Athena, I'm not sure how you guys are splitting up the middle and high school, but you guys are next up. Same topics. What have we been doing? If there are things that we're planning to implement yet, and then in the event we have to go virtual.
Yeah, Athena, do you want to start with middle school, and we'll move to high school?
Absolutely. So, good evening. I'm Athena Wood. I'm the middle school and high school social worker. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. So, we have been very busy this school year. We have been working on a lot of programming for our students. So, what have we already been doing is I have been meeting with middle school students in biweekly support groups. It is during a lunchtime, and we meet upstairs in the stream lab. The other thing that we have been doing is I have been meeting with middle school students on an individual basis. I use cognitive behavioral therapy. I do social games, and that seems to work well with them. Also, Allison and I work really, really closely together. So we're constantly communicating, hey, so-and-so needs emotional help. If I see a student who needs academic help, I refer that student to Mrs. Gleiss. We have also, like Kathleen mentioned, we have put together a resource list with local counselors, community resources, social emotional apps that would be beneficial for middle school and high school students. And I have been providing monthly support groups to middle school teachers. So that's middle school, Allison.
Yeah, and so we also recognize academics and their actual classroom instruction can definitely have a big impact in regards to mental health. So one of the electives that we have at the middle school this year during their 8-hour electives is a quiet place. And we were able to really pinpoint specific students, either based on specific academic, social, emotional needs who we felt could really utilize that quiet time. And during that, we have one-on-ones, tutoring, mentoring, different pull-out services. It's been really great to be able to implement that during the day. Some things that we would traditionally try to do after school, but are limited because of COVID. With that too, quarter two, our NHS students and some other students at the high school have begun some one-on-one tutoring. Again, a lot of ropes we had to work through with COVID of trying to match up schedules and, maintain space, but that's off to a really good start. Again, we're also providing like some very specific tier 2 and tier 3 academic interventions to some of our kiddos who really need that extra support. And what we've been finding is that structure and that regular check-in seems to be paying off in a lot of different ways. Breaks and lunch supervision, I think, has turned into some of the most fun of the day, in my opinion. We have our prayer, we have tons of check-ins. I know, like, when I'm with the middle school kiddos, like, I'm constantly asking them what they're doing on their Chromebook. They're showing me, there's this, like, typing game. I don't know if you have any middle school parents who've seen your kids. It's like this car racing typing game. That's, like, a really big thing right now. So it's fun to see them just super invested, and then with that, just trying to celebrate as much as possible. I'm constantly taking pictures to submit for the newsletter, so it's always exciting when those get included, just again to celebrate the students for utilizing that time, having some fun, taking a deep breath is really wonderful there. Like, I really want to emphasize what Athena said, like, our communication is crazy amazing right now, the best communication I've ever witnessed at a school. And again, we're hearing from students, we're hearing from parents, we're hearing from family, friends, and I think that's what's amazing. Just an example, this week there was a family friend of a current family at the school who's experiencing something, who reached out saying, hey, we want to plan something, for this student for his birthday, like, because, mom's really busy, can we do this? It's like, yes, let's make this happen. Let's bring about some joy. So again, shout out to everyone who's taking initiative there. And then lastly, too, something that's, a regular occurrence at our middle school is math, right? So every other week, our middle school students attend mass, and, they've been really great too in regards to their rosaries this month. So I know that prayer has been a really great aspect in helping ground our students and teachers alike.
We did have a question. We did have a question in the chat, guys, for you. The question is, do all middle school students meet with you at some point each month, or only ones that sign up for specific groups?
So is it for academic or for emotional?
So I think for academic, yep.
Maybe just a little bit more clarity how you connect with the middle school students on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'll just chime in really quick regarding academic. A lot of times, either if there's something in regards to the schedule, I'm reaching out to the student, but what's been really amazing is seeing a lot of advocacy and initiative amongst our student body, especially our younger kiddos. I've had some 6th graders reaching out recently for electives for next semester and things like that. So that is usually just kind of either there's if it pertains to everyone, then I'm going to reach out to everyone. Otherwise, it can be more individualized if it's just a specific student schedule, or if they're like wanting support in a particular class, as well as we get a lot of parent and teacher recommendation and input from an academic point.
Great, thank you. Guys, what about in the event we have to go virtual for middle and high? What are some of the things you have in mind? I know we'll probably continue some of the same things you're doing now, but in a virtual way, but are there other things that you plan to do?
Yeah, we will continue bi-weekly support groups online. That's not going to be a problem. That's going to be an easy transition. I will continue to meet with middle school and high school students on an individual basis on Google Hangout. We hope to work with teachers and continue the clubs. I heard back from students that was a really, that was their highlight of the week, was attending the baking club, was attending, the garden, the outdoors club. So I know the teachers have a lot on their plate. So I'm hoping to team up with them, and maybe we can continue those when we go online, if we go online. The good news is Mr. White allowed Mrs. Gleiss and I to meet with students from 1 to 3 o'clock. I apologize for the background noise. I have 2 loud kids in the background, so I apologize. So that's what we're planning to do if we go virtual. We'll continue tutoring and mentoring meetings with students, and hopefully Mrs. Gleiss mentioned that we can implement virtual Laker family activities. So Allison, if you'd like to add on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely continuing what we're doing. I know we really are trying to formulate some specific programming. And I think, Holly, because you asked regarding like the social work with students as a whole, Kathleen talking about her specific grade levels, I was taking lots of notes, just trying to think about like what could be some really great like traits that we focus in on for certain grades within the middle and high school. So definitely got back out my brain thinking. Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes here to see. Yeah, that's, I mean, really what we have right now for the middle school in regards to moving forward are, one thing that you guys should know is all of our middle school teachers have been really great this week. They've been practicing like a virtual classroom with their students to try and help alleviate some of the different transition difficulties we experienced in the past. I sat in on one the other day in Mr. Whipple's 7th grade social studies class, and the kids were super invested. They did a virtual read aloud with each other just to make sure they were comfortable with all joining the Google Meet and sharing screens and things like that. So there's definitely some like preparation and allowing students to ask questions. And then Athena, I don't know if you want to did you see Holly's question there?
No.
About, so it says for social worker wise, are there regular meetings for all students on a regular basis, or is it solely like one-on-one?
Hi, Holly. So right now I am meeting with students who are seeking to meet with me. I did have a case list from Ms. Merle last year, and I do touch base with those students. But please reach out to me. My email is awood@lmclakers.org. So I hope that answers your question. You can let me know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think it's a good point, but it's because if there are students who, especially maybe the 6th grade or 7th grade who have come from the elementary, who are used to having that access, who might not be like, who might not take the initiative to reach out to you, there might be like a good sort of check-in every, I don't know, maybe it's not every month but it's every quarter or something like that.
Right. When they first came in, the 6th graders came in, I did meet with them the first week of school. I touched base with them, let them know where my office was. I shared my email information, and I got a lot of great feedback from them.
Good.
I know there's a need. I will say, I'll be completely honest with middle school and high school parents. It's like pulling teeth getting to meet with the kids. And like Dr. Dudley said, I think the students want to be honest with me, but they're also very cautious. So I also wanted to provide that feedback. So I hope that helps, and I hope that answers your question.
Yep. Great.
Can I just
Thanks.
a couple of things real quick?
Sure.
I think in the information that I sent you, Sarah, and I'm not sure if it's posted somewhere where Mrs. Smart was talking about in those like FAQs on the website, but there's some really great information that parents can look at from healthychildren.org, which is the AAP's, the American Academy of Pediatrics parent website. They have some great articles that are hopefully linked there. But then also there's one specifically from Dr. Ken Ginsberg, and he is a pediatrician who specializes in resiliency in children. And so that's like a perfect topic for us to be talking about right now. And he has some really cool books that are available. One that I really love called Lighthouse Parenting, how to be a lighthouse for your kid instead of a hovering helicopter parent or a mama bear parent. So that's really great information for a lot of parents and especially teenagers. And in that book, there's some really great scenarios, like some questions to ask and like what you could possibly say depending on what your teen responds. And so I think that's really helpful for a lot of parents, but then also maybe even some of the staff too, if they kind of want to know what they can say or how to word some of their questions to get the kids engaged. So that might be a place for some of us to look.
Can I just say something about that too? You know, we put some of the information on there today, but we'll add more in. I don't know. I guess I'd like feedback on it too. Is it overwhelming? Is it too much sometimes? Should we be taking things off and adding, you know? So when you have time, everybody check it out and see. We'll add some more in anyway, but I just want a little bit of feedback. Let me know what you think, or let any of us know what you think.
Yep, and the Kathleen and Athena's contact information is here at the top too.
And Sarah, do you mind if just add in a few like high school specific things?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and actually, one other thing with middle school that and high school too is we're really trying to like bring back some sense of normalcy. Obviously, there are things that are different, right? And we're adjusting, like the masks and the social distancing. But we recently cleaned out the showcases in the cafeterias that had some rather dated items, and we're able to bring in all of this middle school artwork. We've been putting it all throughout the hallways. We have artwork, we have Spanish work. I forgot, it has some name that the 8th graders, they're like writing thing for the month. I don't know if Ginger's on.
NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, thank you. But so there's a really amazing display in the cafeteria now where they're featuring different middle school authors, and it has their little bio. Again, so just trying to celebrate the students as much as possible. And at the high school level, obviously, I would say the first couple months, there was some major stress for our juniors and seniors regarding standardized testing. The SAT and PSAT is a stressful piece in itself. Add into it a global pandemic, and it's like, I've told them, like, my hat goes off to you guys. Like, I cannot imagine doing what you're doing in the state of our nation and world. And they're rising to the occasion, and like they're being honest, which is so wonderful. But our teachers and our class councils have really stepped up. So for instance, like tomorrow, we're having a pep rally for our boys cross country team and Allie Glendenning, who are heading off to state this weekend. We've been doing bi-weekly trivia. We also have had these different activities during breaks. So we did yoga. We did this like dance one time. I know upcoming next week, we're doing a little special something for Veterans Day. I believe the week after that is going to be a very competitive game of lightning. So that should be really fun too. And I want to give a huge shout out to the parents as well and the students who've been giving so many ideas. I'm a firm believer, like 2 heads are better than 1, and it takes a village, right? So please continue to share ideas, to speak up, and hopefully we can make as much happen in the best possible way. Also, I apologize because I ramble a lot.
No, it's okay. Any other specific high school things you want to call out, Allison, before we go to questions?
Allison,
I do. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So we were planning on doing high school workshops. So Allison and I were planning on teaming up together and meeting with high school students on a monthly basis and going over academic and social emotional topics. So that's one. Yeah,
and we definitely, if we have to go to virtual instruction at some point, we would for sure continue the college visits. Our seniors are currently putting together some SAT and PSAT prep materials and courses. They want to do some tutoring for our younger high school students next semester. So shout out to them for taking that initiative. I know a lot of clubs and organizations are starting to ramp back up. Like I know Interact has been meeting, our class councils are really starting to gain momentum. our international club just had their first meeting this week. And so again, I believe having those things back in action, again, providing a space for the students to step away from the academic piece, as valuable as that is, right? To let their mind shift to something else. Yeah, I'm just looking over to see if there's anything else. I think the only other thing is I've been reading up in this NHS Advisor magazine, and there were so many ideas for what these schools did when they went virtual. Like they had a virtual scavenger hunt, they had a school trivia night, and whether we go virtual or not, I think those things would be amazing to do as is. So just know, like, we have a lot of ideas. We're collaborating with students, staff, parents to try and make as much happen as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll just start asking some of the questions we had submitted in advance. Let's see. One of the questions was, what mental health resources are there in the community? I think I put the link to that page that I was showing in the chat, guys. So there's community resources, parent resources, and a whole bunch of resources on there. And if you can't get to it for some reason, just let us know and we'll get it to you. But like they said, we'll post, I know, Anne, some of the things that you sent were already on there, and we'll add the other ones that you sent to it. And then we'll try to keep that updated. So here's a question. I'll just throw it out to everybody. What preventative things can we do as a family to boost our collective mental health?
Can I start? Can I say one thing before I forget to say it? So something that I do that some of you may know that I'm particularly interested in is how our diet affects our health in general, but also our mental health. And I am working in culinary medicine, so that's cooking medicine, teaching people how to be healthy by teaching them how to eat healthfully. Instead of just telling our patients to eat more vegetables, we're actually showing them how to prepare those vegetables. And so what I do, we're working, and hopefully this will be available at Lakeland in the next few years. I literally have a meeting, a presentation in the next 2 weeks that we're giving to a lot of the Lakeland providers and staff. So we're hoping to get a program available here, but we also have resources for parents and families at Spectrum in Grand Rapids. But I think that knowing that as a family that our diet can affect our health in general, the top 8 causes of death in the US can be prevented by changing our diet. Also, COVID is one of the strongest risk factors for negative effects from COVID is obesity. But then also just in general, our mental health, we know that it is so impacted by our diet. And so if anyone has questions about healthy eating or wants resources, I'd be happy to share those. I teach the pediatric residents at Spectrum about culinary medicine, and we have courses every quarter. It's mandatory for them. So, and I try to share that with my patients as much as possible. And we know that our diet can really affect our mental health. So I think a preventative measure would be to sit down and to have a healthy dinner together, looking at each other in the eyeballs and taking our collective, mental health temperature so that we know how we're feeling, but also enjoying a healthy meal at the same time.
Thanks, Anne.
I would like to add to that, maintain a normal routine, talk, listen, and encourage expression. Personally, active listening is really powerful. So you're just listening to you're listening to your child, and don't interrupt them. Just listen to them, because they just want to be heard. Sometimes the best thing a parent can do is just listen to their child without giving advice. Teach simple steps to stay healthy. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Dudley, and be alert for any change in behavior. If you see your student that is sleeping too much, just really irritable, you see any type of change in behavior, you can reach out to me or Mrs. Smart and reassure your child about their safety and their worth, and that they're going to be okay, and that our school supports them 100%.
Can I just add to that?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say, I know we get a lot of family time because we're not able to do much beyond the family right now, but I don't know, maybe a weekly special type activity with the family, not special in the sense like a big deal, other than you're all together, you're going to do something fun together. I mean, just a fun activity on the weekend or even a weeknight, but just something where it's lighthearted and a good time, and not worrying about homework, not worrying about, our jobs or anything like that, just spending some good time together, doing something fun.
Great ideas. Okay, so one question we got was, what signs would I see if my child was having a hard time? Anne talked a little bit about the screening questions, but maybe you can just talk a little bit more specifically about some of the signs we should be watching for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. So a lot of times, what we'll see is that kids who are feeling depressed or anxious, obviously, if they're anxious, that one seems to be a little bit more obvious. Most of those kids are fidgety. They look uptight. They might have a little bit of a tremor. There's quite a few physical signs. Sometimes they're having diarrhea. Sometimes they're vomiting. Sometimes they say their belly hurts or they have a headache. They may not be sleeping well. They may also not want to eat. And they may be having frank panic attacks. And so that seems to me to be a more obvious one than depression. Depression, the physical signs aren't always as obvious. So the things that you see with your eyes aren't necessarily as obvious. But a kid that's depressed, to me, looks like their posture changes. Looks like the light behind their eyes is gone. They don't seem as bright lit. Their affect is different. They often, older kids, like teenagers and older kids, want to stay in their bedroom more. They want to isolate. They may not want to participate in normal family activities. They might not want to see their friends. It's common that grades slip, like I said before, in any developmental stage with any of these mental health concerns. The appetite, is a huge one. Apathy is something that we always talk about, like I don't care. Like they can't even answer you. They just say, I don't care, or it doesn't matter. But the thing that I look for that I think is one of the things that I look for that is a warning flag before the obvious, suicidal threats or attempts or ideations or vocalizations is not like saying outward signs that are self-deprecating, like not only just saying I don't care, but also saying you don't love me, and saying I'm not good enough, or because I'm stupid, you love her, him, brother, sister more than me, or you never pay attention to me, things like that. I think, and even little kids can say that kind of stuff, like you don't ever put your phone down, or why don't you ever look at me, or how come you don't play with me, or you never are nice to me, like little kids kind of say that kind of stuff. So I think that those are signs that I see quite commonly. Also changes like wild swings in weight, even if you don't know that the kid is eating more or less. I think pretty dramatic swings in weight. Like it's not normal for a kid to gain or lose 10 pounds very quickly. So I think that, that can be another sign that can be helpful. Also, any kind of school avoidance at any time is usually concerning.
Thank you. A good follow-up to that, I think, is what should I do if I think my student needs help?
If it was my kid, and especially if I didn't know what to do or I didn't know what to say, I would bring them to the pediatrician or to their family practice doctor, whoever they see routinely. I think that would be a great first step. Even if you don't know what to say or how to say it, just say something's wrong. And I think what I love that some parents do that I think is really helpful is that they'll say, I think you need to talk to your doctor, so I'm going to wait in the waiting room. And that's hard and that's scary for a lot of parents. And I can imagine that because they want to know what's happening. And I bet that's so traumatizing. I haven't had that happen to me as a parent, but I bet that's traumatizing for a parent. But I think that I only see good things come out of it. And my vocation is to care for your children and for my patients. I call them my kids. And I tell kids and I tell parents all the time that I want to have a confidential conversation with you so that you feel open and that you can talk to me. But we don't have to tell mom or dad everything, but I have to tell them, if you're hurting yourself or someone else is hurting you. Otherwise, we can talk openly and freely, but we need to navigate how to tell them and what parts we're going to tell them if you're hurting yourself or someone else is hurting you. And so I always address that first with the parents right there in the room, so that they know that that's what's going on. But yeah, if you think your kid is hurting, I would say bring them to the doctor right away.
Thank you. I like this question, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and when we were prepping, and I think this might be a good one to end on, although if there are other questions after this, certainly share it. But it's, how can prayer be incorporated into mental health treatment or self-care?
Yeah, I love this because like I started out saying, and it is a great place to end, that but obviously I'll stay as long as anyone needs us to. We have a special place and a special insight, I think, knowing that we are all loved children of God, and that we're all made in Jesus' image and likeness. And so starting from the point of how can we address this with our faith, and how can we address this with our beliefs, is huge. And we all know that that starts at home, but that it should also continue. And we are fortunate that that continues at our school, but some kids maybe don't follow that same faith, or maybe they don't feel connected to it, or maybe they don't feel supported by it. There's also like very real feelings of spiritual darkness or dryness, but then also like spiritual trauma or abuse, like the feeling of I'm not living up to what I should be doing. And so that's very hard for a kid. So I think that sometimes that's something that they don't want to talk about, because like they don't want to let down, like I said before, their mom, their dad, their teacher, their parent, their priest, whoever else, might say, why don't you just pray about it? That can be okay, and that can be helpful. But I think also just asking, how can I help, sometimes is better. It's not the only thing, obviously, but we know that prayer is a huge part of our lives, and prayer should be a huge part of our lives, and will continue to be. But we also need to know that there's other ways that we can get help, that we can see a mental health provider, that we can see a physician like myself, that we can see one of our wonderful counselors and social workers that we have, like I said, our teachers, our priests, our administrators, but that we have to have all the tools in the toolbox so that we gain all the skills that we need. Ken Ginsberg's book, the one that talks about resiliency, that I really love, talks about what are the steps, or what are the factors that lead a child to be resilient and to have a successful life. And so one of those is a strong faith life. There's many other things. There's having a job, being active in sports, having someone who supports them. But some of those things may not be happening right now, obviously. And so having a strong faith life is important, but we also need to seek out other help if that's not the only thing that is seeming to make a difference. And we know that there are so many, that we're blessed in this area, that we have a lot of faith-filled physicians and caretakers that can care for our children.
Thank you. Any other questions or topics, guys? When we were talking about when we were prepping for this session, I think we wanted to make it clear that this isn't meant to scare anybody or make anybody nervous or freaked out, but I think it's just an important topic to address, and really important for everybody to know what resources are available, and just that we're all here together to support everyone in our community. So I don't know, Larry, do you have anything you want to conclude with, or I'll give you a chance. Maybe I'll give you the floor for the ending.
Okay. Didn't really have anything prepared, but just to touch a little bit base on where we're at. So the local area school administrators are always invited to a meeting with the health department every Wednesday. And it's usually after school, and they go over current cases, different things like that. And my biggest thing is, what are they seeing in school buildings? What are their feelings about, in-person instruction versus virtual? And it's been a resounding that the schools are the safest places for our students right now. It has to do with a lot of the mitigation that we have going on in the classrooms or in the buildings, the mask wearing, the protocols, the temperature take, all of these things. Like, we sometimes only focus on the physical health of our students, but then they're also bringing up, it's also the safest mental place for our students also. And nothing against parents or families, but when children are stuck at, or I won't say stuck, when children are at home and they cannot go anywhere else and they're with their parents and their siblings all the time, that does have an effect on their psyche. I mean, it does with us too. I mean, I don't know how many of you are still at home working. I'm lucky enough that I get to go out to a different building I get to leave my house and go somewhere else. I get to see other people in person. For my mental health, that has been huge. And that's why I've been fighting for in-person all along. But that is something that the health department is very a strong supporter of, keeping our children in person. Again, for the physical safety, but also the mental safety of our children. So, and we are also blessed enough to have the type of community that we do have with our awesome social workers and our counselors and our parent support. I mean, it's just huge. I mean, we have experts in almost every field. So anytime that we've ever asked a parent, hey, can you give us a little advice on this? They've stepped up to the plate. So, I mean, really, that's all I'd like to end on. My goal is to be in school 50 more days, and then from that, 50 more days, and then from that, 30 more days for the entire year. Because, I mean, we've talked about this in multiple meetings. Honestly, I was hoping for 2 weeks of school in person, and right now we're at 50. So, I mean, I'm a happy guy. But the goal is to make sure to try to create an experience for our students that's as close to, as we would say, normal as possible, but trying to create other experiences to make them feel like they're not just with their cohort all day long, that they're getting other experiences. So again, parents, thank you for everything that you've done and that you continue to do, and to trust us to not only educate your children, but to keep your children safe in our buildings. And if you ever have questions, feel free to ask. If, you know, Mr. White and I, if we don't have the answer, we will definitely point you in the right direction and make sure that those experts do help you out. So if, I don't know if there are any other questions.
We had one more come through from Nicole, elementary teacher. So as a teacher, should we talk to the social worker first for a game plan if something comes up in class? Kathleen, I assume you're on mute though.
I was hoping to get through the meeting without having to tell somebody they're on mute.
Sorry.
My laptop is slow. It's not me. Yeah, honestly, as a teacher, for sure, I would love for you to come to me, and I think most everybody does, or parents, obviously, too. If it sounds like something that could be medical, or even something a little bit bigger, then I always say start with a pediatrician, and then we'll go from there. But I try to be involved as much as possible, but definitely start there. But things we can handle at school, or we think we can, at least from the start, we'll try. And then we'll go further if we need to.
Great.
Well,
thank you.
On that same line, a lot of it, hopefully is preventative. Hopefully if I'm doing my job well, then no one ever knows that I did my job. That's what I hope. So I try to always do all those self-care things and recommend all those self-care things at every visit. So I ask these questions not just when kids come in for these concerns. I ask them at every visit, how are you doing? How are you really doing? And I think that if Mrs. Smart or someone else at the school can notice these things, Mrs. Mills, if you can notice these things early and get it addressed early, that's the ideal thing. If we're doing our job well, then no one will ever know, because the problem will never happen, and that would be fantastic.
Well said.
And thank you. And that's kind of why I asked it, because I'm trying to be more preventative. just to, keep the eyes open for those kind of things. And I know I do my daily check-ins, but if I see a continuous pattern, I wasn't sure, exactly where to turn, but I think we do a good job reaching out to who needs to be reached out to, I guess.
Absolutely. Also, I just want to say real briefly, thank you, Nicole, for saying that. But if we, if you're seeing a kid that's tired or they're not bringing their lunch or they're struggling somehow, or that the parents are struggling or the kid seems stressed, frazzled, reaching out is great, but also know that it's okay. It's everybody. That's also why I wanted to bring it up. It's not your kid. It's not your family. It's the world. Pandemic means world, right? It's pan. It's everybody. So there should not be a stigma, and there should not be a stigma regarding mental health, but also there should not be a stigma regarding COVID, what we're, most specifically talking about, that if someone's sick, we expect us to be sick, right? This is a huge problem. So I think we really have to be careful that we're not seeing bullying or teasing even, or picking on each other, or saying, I don't want to be by you because you have cooties, or, that kind of stuff, because that's a big deal too. And right now that is just adding one more thing. And so if we can be really careful to be mindful of that, making sure that we are using kind language for addressing those issues, and also bringing it up if parents know that a family is quarantined, or if there is someone that that is home, who's on virtual because they're a contact or whatever, if we can reach out to them and make sure that they're doing okay, I think that would be fabulous, because I know that there's been some stigma about that, and that we really need to break down the walls for the mental health, but also for the COVID illness, because we need to make sure that we can all help each other. That's why we're here.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Again, the resources are on the website. The link was in the chat, and we recorded the session, so we'll also make the session available. If you know people who didn't have a chance to join, you can recommend they watch it.
Yeah,
have a good night, everybody. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Larry.
No, I just saying I had a couple parents say that they were either working or they had other things going on, so they asked if it could be recorded.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Kathleen, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.